Well, good evening, everyone. This is Ruth Abbey from Zero Waste Associates, and it's the top of the hour. We will kind of get going in real force in a couple of minutes, but as long as you're here, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and putting your name in the chat and your affiliation, either the town that you live in, if you are here locally in Delaware County, and let everybody know if you are on the advisory committee. We have a solid waste advisory committee, or if you're a member of the Sustainability Commission subcommittee. We have two subcommittees that are supporting us in this work. So go ahead and use the chat function to tell us who you are, and that way we'll know who's here. And I'll wait another minute, and then I think we'll get going with the agenda. We have about 20 folks here in the Zoom room. And then we have another group of folks that are meeting in person over at the Upper Darby Library. And since the library was limited in terms of how many people could attend, they could only hold about 30 folks in person. We sort of reserved it for locals, but very much appreciate everybody joining us here on the Zoom. The content of the discussion, well, the content of the presentation will be the same. The discussion may be different, but we will definitely share the notes from the Upper Darby discussion. And then Sean is recording this session, and we will post that as well. So if you are just joining, go ahead and put your name and affiliation in the chat. If you're here, a town in Delaware County, go ahead and list that town. And if you're a member of one of the advisory committees, please go ahead and list that as well. And without further ado, I will share my screen. Looks like that's working. And we'll start the discussion. So here's the workshop agenda for this evening. Thank you all for coming out and spending time with us today. This is the welcome and introduction session. And then I'm going to go over a quick project overview. And some of you who are on one of the commission subcommittees or on our advisory committee, you know a lot about this already. Then I'm going to do a very brief what is zero waste update in case anybody hasn't got the word about that, or if you missed the very well attended, very popular sustainability conference last week, we did have a great discussion of zero waste there as well. And then we're going to quickly launch right into the goals for the Delaware County Municipal Waste Plan and also the guiding principles for the zero waste in Delaware County. And we'll kind of unmute and discuss, and we have a survey that we're going to go through, and then we'll just talk about next steps. So that's the plan. All right. So just so everybody knows, it's not a surprise to you. The Delaware County has embarked on a planning process to update its 10-year municipal waste management plan. And the 10-year municipal waste management plan is required by the state of Pennsylvania to make sure that counties are taking into account the needs of their communities. The primary thing is to report to the state on how we're doing, what kind of programs we have in place and are planning for the future, and to ensure that we have enough capacity and primarily destructive disposal capacity, landfilling and incineration for the next 10 years. Delaware County has taken a different path to both document that disposal capacity, but also to identify the policies and programs to move in more of a sustainable direction. And that's because the timing of this plan coincides with the development of Delaware County's sustainability plan. And for those of you that are involved in the Sustainability Commission and the development of that plan, I know this is a very exciting time for the county. So our job on this 10-year municipal waste planning process to give you the feedback and the input to what will become part of the sustainability plan. So that's really exciting for us. We all have a role. When the county put out their request for proposals for assistance in this project, I am, for those of you who came in a little bit late, Ruth Abbey from Zero Waste Associates, and we are assisting the county with the development of the plan. But the request for proposals outlines several objectives, including ensuring that the county has sufficient processing disposal capacity for its municipal waste for the next 10 years. That's one of our primary tasks. But we will also be guiding the county's transition to sustainable methods of materials management using zero waste practices and following the zero waste hierarchy. So we're excited about that. And then we will also be ensuring maximum feasible waste reduction of municipal waste and source separated recyclable material. So that's our charge, and that will become part of our mandate and some of our goals. This is just the chart of the progress that we're going to be making on this plan over the next 6 or 8 months. You can see we are here now in April, and we've already gotten going with several of the tasks. We have, we launched the project in January, did some research on long-term waste disposal. We have engaged with public outreach. This is our first public workshop, but we have been holding listening sessions around the county and meeting with representatives of the business community, the municipalities, the faith community, the schools, a number of the private sector operators, and we still have yet more listening sessions to do with the environmental organizations and environmental justice organizations in the county. So we'll be conducting that right along through the process. We will be holding 2 more public workshops, and we also will be holding monthly meetings of our advisory committee, and those are open to the public. So we'll talk about that more at the end of the presentation about next steps. So just going through the rest of the project, we are doing a solid waste facility inventory, identifying all of those facilities in the county and outside of the county that contribute to our waste reduction, reuse, recycling, composting, disposal system. We are doing a projection of waste quantities and composition. And this will be a preliminary analysis because the state of Pennsylvania is conducting a statewide waste composition study, and we hope to be able to include those findings, which should be out in early summer. We'll try and leave enough wiggle room for us to incorporate those findings into our plan. In the meantime, we'll do kind of a desktop analysis of the composition of the waste that is currently generated in the county. We have prepared a life cycle analysis to identify the impacts of wasting and also the opportunities of reducing waste. And we're just about to engage in the waste management activities analysis, and our next meeting in May will focus on those waste management activities, what we call the zero waste initiatives. We'll do some strategic analysis, and then over the summer, we'll do the plan preparation with the goal of coming up with a final draft plan in the late summer and possibly a final plan in the fall. That coincides with the timing of the sustainability plan. But our plan may be delayed in terms of its acceptance because each of the municipalities in the county does need to adopt or accept the plan, and the county council also needs to accept the plan. And there may be a requirement on the state of Pennsylvania to require us to circulate that final draft plan for 90 days. It might be 30 days, it might be 90 days. That's the plan schedule. So we might extend a little bit into 2023. I wanted to give everybody a very short tutorial on the Delaware County Municipal Waste System. A lot of folks that we've talked to in our listening sessions did not quite know how it all works. And of course, this is a process of discovery, and we're always discovering new things. But primarily in Delaware County, municipalities or private haulers collect municipal waste, and then they deliver it to transfer stations or directly to Covanta. The transfer stations are operated by the Delaware County Waste Authority, the Delaware County Solid Waste Authority, and they operate both the transfer stations and the Rolling Hills landfill in Berks County. So materials from the transfer station go to the Covanta Waste to Energy incinerator plant in Chester, and then ash from that plant go to the Rolling Hills landfill in Berks County. And because we have a landfill that accepts the ash, we are able to get a better tipping fee at the waste to energy facility. So this is an advantage to us. However, it should be noted that while only a portion of the waste that goes to Covanta is from Delaware County, all of the ash is accepted at our landfill in Berks County. So that's something we'll be going to be discussing more in a couple of months when we come back with the long-term disposal scenarios. But I wanted to give you that understanding of how municipal waste flows through the system. Most municipalities in the county also provide residential recycling and yard trimmings or seasonal leaf collection. And the commercial and institutional generators receive recycling services from private haulers or some municipalities. So some municipalities are engaged in recycling collection from some of their commercial businesses, but not all. And the municipalities are primarily focused on providing residential recycling and trash collection services. This is some up-to-the-date analysis of the Delaware County diversion and disposal. So if you look at this pie, what it is showing you is that in Delaware County, 67% of everything that we generate and throw out on a weekly basis is trash, goes out as trash, and 25% goes out as recycling, and 8% goes out as either yard trimmings, or there's a fair amount of wood recycling or wood diversion in the county through chipping and grinding, et cetera. So that's what we've shown in this pie. This pie chart includes all trash, recycling, and yard trimmings for both the residential and the commercial and institutional sectors. And it should be noted that, I don't have it in front of you here, but about 58% of what's generated and flows through the county system is residential, and about 42% is commercial at this time. Okay, so quick recap of zero waste. So what you kind of see in Delaware County is mostly what we see around the country, and it's a linear system. We make things, we extract resources to make things, we make them, and then we put them in the trash. 67% of what is made eventually ends up in the trash in Delaware County. That's the take, make, waste linear economy. A little bit gets recycled, a little bit gets composted, diverted from disposal, but mostly we're here. And our sustainable goal is to get to a zero waste economy, where materials flow through more of a closed loop, and there's less resource extraction, more clean production, more reuse and repair, and more resource recovery going back to clean production, and little or no destructive disposal. And that's what we call the zero waste economy, and that's kind of our goal. There is a definition of zero waste. Zero waste is a little hard to wrap our arms around because, zero, do you really mean zero? Zero seems a really hard thing to get to. When we say zero, it is an aspirational goal, and it's aspirational the way things like zero injuries on the job site is our goal, right? We don't want to have any injuries on the job site, and so zero injuries is our goal. Will we still have some injuries on job sites? Yes, but our goal is zero. Similarly, zero defects in manufacturing. When we're manufacturing stuff, on the manufacturing floor, some stuff gets mucked up, and it does not get, it gets some defects in there. But our goal is zero. Our goal is zero defects, zero injuries, and our aspirational goal is zero waste. So the internationally peer-reviewed definition, and this is from the Zero Waste International Alliance, is the conservation of all resources by means of responsible production, consumption, reuse and recovery of products, packaging, and materials without burning and with no discharges to land, water, or air that threaten the environment and human health. Now, that would be an aspirational goal, but so is sustainability. And since the county is involved in working on a sustainability plan, sustainability is also super aspirational. So we're supporting the county in that outcome with the pursuit of zero waste. This is the zero waste hierarchy. Way at the top is rethink and redesign, followed by reduce and reuse and recycle. But that rethink and redesign is the most important thing about zero waste, because it's about creating the projects and the products and the processes so that the materials that are generated are more easily reduced, reused, or recycled. So that's the hierarchy. In the middle of the hierarchy, we do want to recycle and compost. And then towards the bottom is really that destructive disposal. We want to have as little as possible down in that area. And here's the reason why. Zero waste focuses on those upstream and waste reduction arenas because the extraction and the manufacturing are really impactful. And it turns out that 71 tons of materials are created upstream for every 1 ton of municipal waste that we see in our trash, right? So if you think about that for a minute, this is the image of the wasteberg to kind of demonstrate that concept, which is we only see the tip of that wasteberg, which is what, in our products and materials that we use every day that become municipal solid waste. But for every ton of municipal solid waste, there are 71 tons of materials upstream. So reducing the generation of materials is the highest goal for zero waste. And here's why. Because zero waste is one of the fastest, most efficient, and lowest cost ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This is from a study from the Institute for Local Self-Reliance in Washington, D.C., and they have researched based on US EPA and Department of Labor sources what is generated upstream and how reducing that can really save greenhouse gas emissions. And here's how. Zero waste, the primary thing that it does is save energy, because if we are recycling versus using virgin material, you can see with aluminum, for example, that's a 95% savings of electricity, of energy. So this is really important that we should put a lot of energy and effort into zero waste, because it ends up being more cost effective than some of the other things that we can do to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Some of those things are a lot harder than zero waste, even though maybe zero waste is also hard. Some of it's easy, some of it's hard. Okay, so now we're going to move on to a discussion of the goals and guiding principles. I just have a couple more slides and then we'll kind of stop sharing and discuss. So first of all, as far as the goals are things like zero waste, 50% recycling, something like that. Any goal should be tied to implementable policies, programs, and infrastructure needed to achieve them. And goals should have a method, a timeline, and resources to measure them. Goals should be doable, but ambitious. And the zero waste goals will be something that will be fed into the sustainability plan, and those will be part of the Delaware County Sustainability Plan. We're not quite ready to determine what those goals for the county are going to be, because in our next session, we're going to be talking about those potential implementable policies, programs, and infrastructure. And that would be things, again, an example of that might be having compost collection countywide. Currently we do a good job with our yard trimmings and our lease, but there's relatively little food scraps collection in the county. We did see a wonderful video from media where they are collecting. You got to get a bucket to do your food scrap collection. So that's an exciting example locally. And we'll be talking about some of those opportunities at our next session. Another example might be more opportunities for repair and reuse. Used to be able to repair almost anything. Now I'm really trying to get my my dishwasher repaired, and I cannot get anybody out here. So it's an example that we may need more resources to do those things that we used to do very easily in the past. So we'll be talking about those implementable policies, programs, and infrastructure in our next session, and then we'll come back and look at what our goals should be. But this evening's discussion is really going to be about the guiding principles. Oh, and here's the Delaware County Diversion and Disposal pie again, to show you that we are at something like 33% diversion now. And so a interim milestone goal might be 50%, in the next 5 or 10 years, or 75% or something like that. That could be a goal or a milestone, implementing programs on that way to the aspirational goal of zero waste. So on the guiding principles discussion, what we're going to be asking you to do is to think about what you think the principles should be that guide the Delaware County zero waste planning process. And I'll be giving you some examples. And then if you have any thoughts or comments about zero waste principles that should really guide the policies and planning for Delaware County. So if we're going to be talking about policies, programs, and infrastructure next time, we have to talk about them in the context of what? sustainability, economics, those sound pretty good. Environmental justice, social justice, equity, so those are the types of things that we should be talking about tonight, so that when we go to evaluate those potential new policies, programs, and infrastructure, they have, there's some guidance around that. So we put together a list, and I'm going to be sharing this with you in the chat. We're going to go to a survey, but essentially these are a bunch of things that have been brainstormed. The Sustainability Commission subcommittees and the advisory committee have contributed to this. And so you can just sort of see, here are some of the examples. Protect public health. Should that be a guiding principle for the zero waste plan? Yeah, maybe so. Aim for highest and best use of materials. Respect workers, lead by example. So we're going to kind of go through these when we all have it in front of us and kind of go through it together. So let's see. So now I'm going to put this form link in the chat so that you can get it if you're on your computer, or if you would rather, you can go to the QR code, which is right there, and you can call it up on your phone. So let me stop sharing for a minute. Well, let's see. Can I do this? Yeah, I can do this at the same time. All right. So you can still see that QR code, but then at the same time, I'm wondering if I can get the chat. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to put this link for y'all in the chat. Just copy that. And then you can go to this. All right. To everyone in the meeting. There we go. And there we will, oh, and I see there have been some comments in the chat, so we can take those as well. So why don't everybody who's going to do it on their phone, you got that one? And everybody's going to do it on your computer, you now have it in the chat. So now I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so before we go to the discussion, let's go to some chat issues. So Joan, you had a couple of questions or comments. Did you want to kind of weigh in? What about municipality does not collect yard trimmings? Did you want to talk about that a little bit? You can just unmute.
Right, I'm sorry.
Hi.
So this goes to the equity question, I think. So I don't want to derail this discussion about the list, but I will say I actually took the survey before as I registered, and I felt that the list was actually much too broad and got away from principles. So I just I had to say that. So my city, Chester, is, broke, and it's been badly managed for decades. And so, and we don't do the pickup of yard. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about some of these principles you're talking about. And I would like some guidance around this list you have, because as I say, I think it's actually really too long, and I don't know what to do with that. I ended up doing it twice because we're only allowed to have 8. Okay, so anyway, yeah.
Well, let's do it together. And I appreciate your input in terms of them being too broad, and we can definitely put some more specifics behind that. So that's the purpose of this discussion for the next, the rest of the meeting is really going to be about going through that list, discussing it, adding on to it, and feeling like we should, adjust if needed. So I think might be best at this point, if folks can get that in front of you, you can start filling it out. And Joan, I invite you, you can fill it out again, no problem. We'll be able to average all of yours together. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we're all looking at the same thing at the same time. But you should feel free to also just call it up on your computer or on your phone if you have it. So I think you guys can see this Delaware County Zero Waste Guiding Principles. Shout out if you can't see it. And I have not filled this out yet. I don't think I will. But anyway, why don't we kind of go through them, see if anybody has any questions about them. Feel free to add on either here. You can do more, or you can You go girl must have been my note. You can feel free to add on more or put them in the chat and we'll record them that way. And we can also discuss them if you put them in the chat. But let's kind of just go through this list. This list was a compilation of guiding principles. One of our colleagues, Amy Perlmutter, who did a presentation to this advisory committee earlier this month, kind of talked about some guiding principles. We've collected them from around the country, different communities, Boston, Baltimore, Los Angeles, all around, who have gone through this process that Delaware County is doing now. And some of these are reflected in, in that list. But we don't care what's going on in Baltimore or Boston or Los Angeles or whatever. We care about what's going on in Delaware County. So we want to make this specific to us. So that's the point of this discussion tonight, what we're having here on the Zoom call, and also what the folks that are at the Upper Darby Library are talking about. But let's go ahead and just look at these and just make sure we understand what they all are. So the first on the list is reduce toxics. Good goal. So reducing toxics might be the things like, more household hazardous waste events where chemicals of concern and paints and other things are collected from communities. There's some of that going on right now in the county. There could be more, right? So reducing toxics. There may also be an interest in reducing the toxics that are generated in the first place, potentially by reducing the distribution or manufacture of some materials. Some communities do spend effort on county or municipal rules around that, what can be sold in the town. Promote product redesign. I'm just going to kind of go through these and I want you guys to shout out if you have a comment or a question. And then of course, we want to have a discussion. So if you want to slow down or speed up, there are 20-ish ideas here, but of course we do want to hear your ideas. But just to promote product redesign, the idea there is if we have problem products, and I'll give you a good example would be some of the municipalities locally are looking at plastic bag bans. And why are they looking at plastic bag bans? Because, plastic bags, we use them for about 30 minutes and then, we can use them to line garbage cans and that kind of thing, but they have a relatively short useful life and then they become trash or windblown litter or something like that. And alternatives such as, reusable bags may have less of an impact. That's just an example of product redesign. There might be better examples, but support new zero waste technologies. There may be any number of those, but I mean, there are communities, Gainesville, Florida, that's very interested that they host University of Florida in Gainesville, and they're very interested in technology solutions for zero waste. I understand that we have upwards of 12 colleges and universities in the county, so we probably have a lot of brain space for new ideas and new products. So that might be a good one for us. Make participation by all parties easier, protect the environment, take a systems approach. Some of these might require more discussion and definition, but as I would understand a systems approach, it means look at things holistically and not just, what's in front of you, right? Look at the whole system and design for sustainability. Aim for the highest and best use of materials. A good example of that would be glass. A lot of glass locally and nationwide does not get made into new bottles, but by separating glass from other materials, you can get them to the glass beneficiators that will make new products. And we do have a lot of energy and interest in that locally. Benefit from economies of scale. I think this is a really big one for Delaware County, and I would love to get your input on that, which is currently each of the municipalities does a lot of it's either its own contracting or its own municipal collection, and don't necessarily take advantage of working together on a compost facility or working together on, a collection system that is more uniform or, more streamlined. So, I mean, I would love a discussion from municipalities about what they would like to see, by working together. And there are probably examples of projects that the municipalities work on together, and, zero waste could be one of them. And then we could do more in terms of economies of scale, working together. I know that there are other counties, consortiums of cities that work together, and that might be one that might be beneficial. Build the power of the community. Again, that's kind of, more community-based solutions. A good example of that might be, have either NGOs or local community groups, really contribute to the life of the zero waste programming by hosting things like repair fairs or community compost or other things. I think we have a lot of that going on in the county. We could do more. Provide cost-effective solutions to municipalities. I would bet that's high on a lot of people's lists. Things are not necessarily going to get cheaper, considering, cost of oil, other things. So doing things more efficiently and providing effective solutions might be, a good one. Respecting workers. We have many communities that are very concerned about the recycling workers and the folks that are involved in manufacturing and making sure that those are good green jobs. Being transparent. And this is something that we've heard a lot about, hey, what is the cost of the current system, and where does our money go, and how do we pay for our collection services, and what is it across the county? What are, some towns paying, what other towns paying? More transparency might mean more information, more power. Use good governance, engage communities and stakeholders. To me, that's really important. That's why we're here tonight. No incineration. We have heard that from a lot of stakeholders in the community. Center equity and inclusion. Grow the zero waste economy. Make producers responsible for their problem products. So that would involve, really engaging with them, with the producers. Examples, nationwide would be things like, bottle bills or extended producer responsibility. Maybe that's not something that the county itself could take on, but it could become a part of a consortium of counties at the state level that do more work on that. Following the international accepted definition of the zero waste and the zero waste hierarchy. That's sort of a given, and that was our charge at the beginning of this project. Waste less and divert more. Protect and grow local zero waste jobs. Educate everyone. When we've done workshops, and we did about 250 workshops in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a big city. And everywhere, all the workshops we did, people would say, education, education, education. That's the most important thing. So, that's why that's on the list. Identify and reduce subsidies for waste. A lot of times we put a lot of effort in the waste system and less in the recycling and compost system. Well, it turns out recycling and compost have costs as well, and investing in those as well might be something that would be a priority. Close the loop, which means buying recycled. The procurement strategies at the county level and at the municipalities, where we are actually buying the compost that we create for our parks and landscapes, and buying recycled paper as a primary strategy at the county level or at the municipal level. Those would be examples of closing the loop. Even more robust would be using recycled material in road construction would be another one. That's a lot. And maybe again, that might be something that we work on with at the state level. Involve communities in decision making. That seems like a good priority. Avoid wasteful products. Get better all the time. Lead by example. That one takes a minute to explain, in that lead by example is our shorthand for saying that the county and the municipalities in their everyday life, as they go through their work, should be showing the residents and businesses and demonstrating the work that we would like to see. So we should be recycling and composting and reducing trash in our city and county governments. And we should be buying recycled and demonstrating to the residents and the businesses that this is an economical and the worthwhile thing to do to close the loop. That's kind of leading by example at the county or the municipal level. Building a circular economy. So that would mean, having the jobs here that actually create new products out of the old materials. Reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which is a priority for the sustainability plan. Create more jobs, and then protect public health. And that might be a signal here as well. So I just kind of read through those. There are probably more and better. Here's the opportunity for you to add more, and you can add as many as you want. And then there was just a little demographic about where do you live and where do you work, and then you submit it. I'm going to stop sharing and see, do we have some discussion? Okay, we do. Well, let's go for it. Are we allowed to share this survey with other community members? Absolutely. So we did put a link on the registration page. We just did that this week. So if you registered for the workshop a few days ago, you didn't see it. But if you registered to it in the last day or so, we did put a link to the survey on that page underneath the April 28th meeting. And we would like to circulate this around the county to as many folks that you know, or you can get it out to. So after today, we will ask the county public relations folks to send out through their channels a either a press release or whatever, social media, that sort of thing. And if you could as well, I'll send to everybody that registered a link so that you can send that out. But absolutely would like to get as much input on that as possible. So we'll maybe do a little cover letter to explain it a little bit more, because I kind of explained it in my words, but it would be great to get it to as many folks as possible in the next month or so. And then another question is, the list I brought up using the QR code looks different. It starts with make producers responsible for the problem products. That just may be a legacy of the of what it looks like on the phone, that what it looks like for the computer, but it's the same link. It is the same link. So it should be the same stuff. It just might be jumbled up. And then I think the options are rearranged. Yeah, I think so too. Mine is a different order. Yeah, might be random. Okay, good. The list is scrambled. Oh, maybe it's every time you pull it up. That's interesting. And then let's see. So there are rare elements here about production, which are manufacturing. And then there are personal use. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a typo there. It seems like the list has production manufacturing elements versus so for like one guiding principle for both, it feels a little hard, because as someone who has no idea, I think Ed mentions lower, how are we going to in our county promote product redesign? So we could if we collaborate with someone, but by ourselves that feels hard, and there are so many other things in there that need to come first. So that's where I am struggling.
Yeah, and that might be less of a priority for Delaware County than for another community. So extended producer responsibility, and product redesign are priorities. A lot of times that happens at the state level. Occasionally you will have municipalities that step out in front and say they're going to do something. Some of them have, for example, banned phthalates in children's toys, right? It's just like, can't sell those in our community. Or another example might be styrofoam, right? Styrofoam ban. So you might just ban styrofoam in foodware, but I also know of municipalities that have just banned styrofoam for everything. No styrofoam ice chest, no styrofoam packaging, no packaging peanuts. I'm not exactly sure how they enforce all that, but there are municipalities that want to step out in front and work on those things that are maybe a little higher hanging fruit. And it's possible for us, and it would be good feedback to hear from you all, do we really need to be working on some of that lower hanging fruit first? So that's why we have the discussion, right? So that's kind of it. And yes, Chantal, we do need to share this with everybody that we can, and we'll try and get that out far and wide after today. And there's nothing on this list that I would not want as a guiding principle. Right. So how are you going to prioritize? I know, right? But that's the thing. So why we need you to be thinking about this and putting your mental energy into it is because you're going to know Delaware County better than me, right? I know where I've been around the country. I know what other communities are talking about. I know what I'm doing in my town, and I don't live in Delaware County. My colleague Alex, who's over at Upper Darby Library right now, he does live in Swarthmore, but it's going to be up to you guys to prioritize. So this is the hard part. That's why you're here. Yeah. Okay. But we can also have a long list. So when the way we're going to use the guiding principles, and maybe that's the way of thinking about it, is that's how we're going to prioritize the next steps. In Baltimore, when they did this process, it was very important to them to elevate community power. And that was because they felt as though there was a disproportionate emphasis on, folks at the city level, behind the scenes at public works. Decisions were not being made with the community involved. And so that was very specific to their situation, right? That there felt like there was not the transparency, and they really needed to build community power. That became one of their goals. And so that means that things like producer responsibility probably were not in their guiding principles. So just give you that context. So it really does need to be shaped by the county context and the municipalities. What the community in Delaware County does need to shape that. So again, there's no reason that things could be more or less, but we got to go somewhere. Because when we come back to you next month and we're going to say, hey, we got these ideas for policies, programs, and infrastructure, what do y'all think? And you're like, well, how are we supposed to know? Well, one of the ways that we will be reviewing them would be, how do they meet our guiding principles? That one, the one we had about producer responsibility. Producer responsibility doesn't end up on the list. Maybe some of the strategies around producer responsibility are also lower down. That's just an example. Okay. How do we weight the different ideas? Yeah, you just got to do it. Sorry. And, if this exercise is not meaningful, if you think that this work is not going to result in something that we think is meaningful, we need that feedback too. I mean, we're doing the best we can in terms of what we need to do. The plan does need some guidance. And, we could just go to the Sustainability Commission and say, what's your guidance? They would say the same thing to me too. Oh, well, everything or nothing. But the point of reaching out to the community around this is to just see if we can get some more voices heard and some more consensus around some of these issues. And then some municipalities have had to turn away from recycling because of the cost. The residents have greatly reduced their personal recycling. Yikes. Benefiting from an economy of scale and supporting municipal collection systems is going to be very important. I would love to have that dialogue. We did a little, we talked to some of the engineering companies that do the bids from the municipalities. I'm like, so how does that all go? And they're like, well, it's kind of the same old, year after year. We just send out the same RFP to the same people, and the same people bid, and we get similar costs. I'm like, okay. And that may be good enough for those municipalities, but I think it's worth elevating and having the community dialogue. And we really do need your input and access to the folks that at the municipal level to say, should we be talking about having a consortium that go out to bid together? Maybe, do we like, that idea we talked about earlier that you got to get a bucket for your food scraps? That might be a very good example of something that's hard to do on a small scale, but easier to do on a large scale. Don't know. Having more efficient, compact routes is something that drives costs. So it would be great to have that discussion. And then some agreement on the economy of scale is important. Countywide composting, anaerobic digestion is more efficient and cost competitive. The county can use the same legal approach to mandate commercial foods waste go to the facility. Yeah. We did put some questions into the county solicitor along those lines to say, what's doable at the county level? Can we pass county ordinances for some of these? Or is it better to do things like do a model ordinance that then we share with the municipalities? Do you guys have feedback on that? What do you think would work best?
Well, this is Peter. I guess that's basically what the current law does. It casts a net over the county and tells everyone what to do with their trash. So it seems like the county has that authority, if it could do that with all trash, to also mandate that some categories of trash have other destinations and fates.
So
as a non-lawyer.
Well, and we'll of course consult with the county solicitor and other folks. We also putting that question to some of the other counties, because we have heard of counties in Pennsylvania that are doing that. You know, one county putting out a request for proposal for collection for all the municipalities or many of the municipalities. I think probably you would want to do an opt-in. But anyway, if that's possible to do, at least a discussion and an elevation and exploration of it might want to be explored for that economy of scale reason. And this planning process is the place to do it, because it's where we would be, you know, sort of elevating the idea. Okay, we like the idea of economies of scale and economical efficiency, right? If we all agree, or if, you know, the community agrees that that's a guiding principle, then we would say, all right, well, how are we going to do that? All right, let's look at something where we're not just doing the same bid over and over again. We're looking large scale and looking across the county and developing a countywide approach, or consortiums of municipalities approach, so that we can get more bang for the buck. That might be a great idea. So, okay. What else have we got? What are the things can we do and the principles to guide our local work? Put the principles that require collaborating out of the county in a separate list. Okay. Okay, so the idea would be, what can we do at the county level versus what we can influence? So one of the things that we talk about in that case is there's this circle of control. What do we have direct control over? And then there's this circle of influence, right? So in these guiding principles and in the strategies that we'll talk about next time, we might have things that are really that the county can control or the municipalities can control through their systems, but then there might other be things that they can only influence, which are also important. And those things that you can influence, you can work at the state legislative level, you can cooperate with other surrounding counties and work together. So separating those out, would be a great idea too. And then does the county solid waste idea assume that municipalities will work together if the authority worked that way? Are you talking about the solid waste authority, the existing authority?
Yeah.
Joan, is that your comment? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that my understanding in talking with the authority staff
Actually answers just below.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I see Jim is here. Hi, Jim. Yeah, I think that would be the idea. So part of this planning process is to identify what needs to happen, what we would really like to see in this plan, and then identify the appropriate implementation mechanism. I think my understanding, talking to Jim, is that there is a role for the Delaware County Solid Waste Authority to expand its contribution to this effort. We do know of solid waste authorities across the country that put a major focus on the waste reduction, composting, and recycling effort, even though they may have a principal responsibility also for the disposal side. So that could be a model that we would recommend that the Delaware County Solid Waste Authority pursue. So that's definitely an avenue. And there are also other avenues of having, consortiums of city that are, not as big as the countywide approach, that could also do things, right? So that, any number of things could be on the table, but I do think that there's an interest on the county side and on the authority side in expanding its role. So for sure. Okay. And then can these meetings be publicized on the Solid Waste Authority website? Oh yeah, we should ask that. And on the commission website. And then some valid principles are beyond county ability to implement, make producers responsible for, and could have a state laws, e-waste, store return, design for the environment. We could include the plan, a list of state and federal actions to support county performance. So that may be how we would handle it then in the 10-year plan. We would say, here's what we're going to do as the county or as the municipalities, what's what we're going to take on. But in order for us to truly do our work and make it easier on us, we do need action at the state level for sure. And that can be a list of things that we would like to see the state pursue. I think that's great. Oh, Mike's here. Hi, Mike. Much can be impacted in terms of industrial design through countywide cooperative purchasing and putting requirements and contracts in RFP. That gets to that lead by example and closing the loop. And then food packaging is a national problem. Food products are overpackaged and thus end up throwing away a lot of boxes and plastic containers. Absolutely. And then how can zero waste deal with that? Yeah, so some things are harder to do than others. But hey, let's let's discuss it. So there are things that you can do at the municipal and county level in the regards to foodware, but not necessarily things that are imported into the county from outside, particularly over state lines. It's a great point. And Jim is going to advertise our meetings. Thank you, Jim. Sue picked 8, but as Karen said, there are many that are equally important. Yes, I agree with Joan. Okay, I'm reading y'all's comments. Y'all can read them too. Does anybody want to kind of pipe up and give us a little discussion amongst themselves rather than me just reading? Go ahead and unmute.
Well, I'll pipe up about procurement. I thought that was a good suggestion, but it also occurred to me that most municipalities heavily rely on CoStars, which is the state purchasing system. And wouldn't that be a good place to really push, recycle content and circular economy, if we could get the state to do that? And that's really, that's something that I think the administration could do that really doesn't require legislation.
Excellent. I see a note here about categorizing the guiding principles, and I think that's great. We can definitely take a stab at that. So maybe the feedback after tonight would be we'll put a little effort into categorizing those principles based on those things that go together, and and send it out again, and and then maybe hold off broadly broadcasting it tomorrow until we get it back to you. So that's kind of a good suggestion. We had a question here. I hope I'm not skipping around too much, but what's been done elsewhere to promote repair and reuse and to create jobs from those programs? Great question. There's a lot of interest in this across the country, particularly around the idea of right to repair. There's legislation in a number of states about even being able to repair your computers or your farm equipment without voiding the warranty. Tremendous issue. And there is an organization called iFixit. If you go online, ifixit.org or .com or whatever, great guys. They're former university students who have come up with user guides about how to fix almost anything. They will also sell you the tools to do it, so you can open up your iPhone and fix it yourself. And there is a lot of interest among folks in being able to just go ahead and repair it themselves. And then many counties and municipalities sponsor repair fairs. And this is something that you can really do so easily, like at a county or a city library. We have librarians very interested in that.
I'm appalled when I go around in the neighborhood on trash day at the amount of good usable furniture that is just going into the truck. So I'm also wondering whether there is something that could be done to get that kind of thing to a place where, if need be, there were jobs that could be created to make minor repairs or whatever, so that the furniture could be resold or even given away. Be a lot better than sending it down to the incinerator.
I think there would be a lot of interest in that. Do you have in your neighborhood Free Cycle or Craigslist for some of that stuff?
We Ruth, let me respond a little bit to that. We do have a few programs in the area. In Mediaborough, we have a free store for giveaways. Now, they're not able to handle things like furniture, though, that Ed is talking about. We used to have a Habitat Restore, and they unfortunately had to close. As I understand it, they just couldn't, operate it in any way that was useful. I'd love to see something like that reopen, but I don't know that there would have to be some kind of subsidy, and maybe we could find a subsidy, a grant program that that could encourage, a furniture exchange, an appliance exchange. In some communities, you can use nextdoor.com. Again, here around media, we've been very successful at giving things away, but that really varies from neighborhood to neighborhood, because in some neighborhoods the quality of the dialogue is not good, shall I say.
So that's maybe just a communication issue, right? I mean, we were talking a little earlier today, there's just a lot of things could just be, elevated by more channels for communication and more ways of sharing amongst the different, neighborhoods. So I think that there's a really cool opportunity there. It looked like, who had their hand up? Was that Deb? Sorry.
Me,
Hi.
Dale Harris.
Dale. Hi, Dale.
Yeah, in Lansdowne, we have Lansdowne Proud, and it's very organized. It's a Facebook group, and they just had a big event last weekend where people just put out everything. It's all free. Whatever you put out is free. And it must be some sort of a national organization, but you could look at, it's called Lansdowne Proud or Media Proud or something like that. So you
It's
could look
actually
into that.
called Buy Nothing Lansdowne.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol. You're right. Buy Nothing Lansdowne, it's called.
Oh, perfect. Well,
Buy
see,
Nothing
if we
Media
had Buy
Proud.
Nothing in every municipality,
Yeah,
then that would solve a lot of our problems.
yeah.
There is a Buy Nothing Havertown, and I guess maybe, well, so all of these things are very ad hoc and local, and maybe the way to harness it from a planning perspective is to actually encourage it by promoting it, and not just the county, but encouraging the townships to promote it as part of their trash information outreach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because it is very much local. And it seems to me that, Ed, if you actually engage with the municipality about it, got people to agree that this was something that they should stop doing, they would then stop collecting it, right?
Wrong.
Well, I think there's always going to be a place for that, for stuff that's just not usable. Our township calls it bulk pickup. But I do agree that there is a lot of useful stuff out there. Haverford also has a very active group, TerraCycle recycling group that's, sort of community volunteer based. And again, those kinds of things, some of the members are, going out on their power walks, collecting, scrap metal on trash days and things like that.
Sue, you had a note here about WSSD has a site called Swap. What is WSSD? Sorry.
That's Wallingford Swarthmore School District.
Wallingford Swarthmore School District, yeah.
Got it. Okay, great. And I didn't mean to interrupt anybody, but I did want to respond to Jacqueline about can we have more time for public comments and suggestion of initiatives? So can we spend the time now to talk about suggestions of guiding principles, or next time we'll be talking about initiatives, which means the actual strategies. This meeting was about principles, but we can of course do both. So Jacqueline, what were you hoping to get to? Are you there, Jacqueline? Okay. Anyway, don't let me interrupt you. Who is going to talk next?
I was just going to comment that perhaps the county's role here, since it is such a local phenomenon, the county's role might be best just to facilitate, for example, to have a county-wide website with a consistent look for each community that wants to have a free furniture exchange or whatever. Or, a common way for people in the county to access these, find out what's going on near them. Facilitate some cooperation and coordination among the independent groups.
Yeah, excellent. And that doesn't sound like a very costly undertaking to do more promotion of what's going on locally that's doing well. Jennifer, you have your hand raised.
My hand is only raised to nominate Sherry Stuber to talk about her categories that she listed in the chat, because I think that's a really good starting place for winnowing the principles.
Oh, great. Sherry, do you want to address that?
Well, thanks, Jennifer. I mostly was just looking at the list, and I think someone else commented on, overlap, and that maybe things would not be, all this overlap would dilute, some of the answers. So I thought if we could group them into categories that would, that are the main things we want to look at. And some of the things I listed were protecting the environment, protecting public health, centering equity and inclusion, and creating zero waste jobs, promoting the environment. The economy for, with respect to jobs that can handle our waste in better ways. I don't know if we're going to be looking at any kind of new technologies or maybe existing technologies like material recovery programs that could create a lot of good jobs and also help reduce our waste. So that was just my thought, is that we could maybe look at these in terms of categories and help sort of consolidate all the different aspects of these.
So I'm just reposting so folks can see it at the bottom of the chat. I think this was your comment, these general categories: protect the environment, protect human health, strengthen jobs and economy, produce responsibility, educating the public, creating zero waste culture. Yeah. And centering equity and inclusion. Well, I would vote for those. So the idea would be, those are kind of some broad categories from the point of view of guiding principles. And then a lot of these little ones that are listed could fall under those.
Yeah.
Would there be anything that you would say was important that was missing?
No, not really. I think that it really did cover pretty much everything. A lot of things that have been brought up since then too, about the county, promoting economies of scale. It just would be really helpful, especially a lot of the smaller municipalities needing to, come up with all these ordinances and procedures and dealing with all the different kinds of ways they need to deal with trash and recycling and so on. It's a big job, and if the county can sort of provide guidelines along those for municipalities along those lines, that would be really helpful.
I'd just like to add one more category, general category, and that is accountability, transparency, and governance.
Okay, I'm going to add that to the chat. Just keep
Can
track.
Can I say something? I don't know how to raise my hand.
That's fine. Shout it out.
And I'm not quite sure how to phrase this, but I did put something in the chat. But some of our municipalities are very tiny. Rutledge has like 900 people. Milburn has, I don't know, 800. And the cost of trash collection and recycling, all of those things are going to be the paramount thing that these municipalities are going to be thinking about and reacting to. And the other thing that goes along with it is I can't think of the word, but so many of these things are so local, you know, like you have the Free Store Media, you have the thing in Havertown, you have the thing in Lansdowne, but people from other municipalities can't participate in a lot of them. I can't go over to Nether Providence and put my recycling in their recycling bins, you know, that kind of thing. So they're all narrow little silos of their own. And we have to be, I think, really super aware of that as we go forward. That's all I want to say.
So for the smaller municipalities, would a you know, a county level or an authority level opt-in for certain things help? You know, I just brainstorming, but you know, the authority or the
depend
county
on
could
how
go
much-
out and say, here's, y'all can take advantage of this contract if you want. And then you can or don't have
Yeah,
to.
that might help. Might. Yeah.
Could I say something?
Yeah.
Sue Hunt here. I'm in charge of trash and recycling here in Rutledge. What was just said is absolutely true. Our problem, not a problem, but this is just speaking upon, you know, about the borough. We have no public works. We have a part-time road person that takes care of things, and we have one truck. So we do have recycling. We did start a yard waste pickup beginning in April of this year. But again, we need partners with other places because of the fact we're so small and we don't have the transportation capabilities that maybe some other people have, you know, to be able to get things back and forth. So yes, any kind of partnership or something at the countywide would be amazing.
Do you think that, you know, that concept would appeal across the county? Or, you know, I did get a little bit of feedback that there might be a little parochialism and, you know, concern about, you know, big county or authority folks doing things that, you know, don't tread on me kind of thing. Do you share that concern, or you think that there would be a lot of receptivity?
I mean, I think it would be great if we could maybe partner, I know, with some other towns because of the fact we're so small. I mean, I understand what Karen's doing in media and it's amazing, but we just don't have those kind of funds and that kind of a road crew in order to implement things. So for us, I think joining in with someone else because of our size would be very advantageous to us.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of, you know, there are a lot of different models out there, and I am aware of a model of a waste management authority that does a generalized county-wide request for proposal for services. And then each of the municipalities has some things that they want and some things that they don't want, and they're kind of customized, but it's over that overall you know, request so that they could get the services that they need. And it doesn't have to be the same service provider, but it can just be the same process. Hey, Jim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. I just wanted to jump in here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the interim CEO for the Delaware County Solid Waste Authority. And consortium development is really important, and it can work well in a dense community like Delaware County, where you have 49 municipalities, and they range from 87,000 to 900. And getting combined services for communities like Rutledge that we just heard, which is right near Morton, which is also small, which probably has a couple other ones around it that are a little bigger, or is something that makes a lot of sense, especially when you want to add services or separate pickups of materials like compostables in the future. So by consolidating services or by consolidating service districts, you can increase the amount of service provided in a more costly fashion. And when when the authority gets ourselves staffed appropriately, outreach to the local government units is going to be very, very important and high on our list to help advise them as to how they might approach some of these issues and challenges.
Thank you, Jim. I
You're
think
welcome.
sound like there are folks that want to take you up on your offer.
I think there are.
Hey, Joan, I'm interested in your comment of the history of the county means that anything the county would want to do should be done in a discussion and collaborative nature. How can we do a good job of that?
By being friendly and not demanding, by engaging in conversation, by not acting as if the county is the one in charge and it will do what it wants no matter what you want, which is the history of the county. Thankfully, not the recent history of the county, but there are those out there who think it is still the history of the county. So there's a lot of learning that we all have to do in this county, and the people in municipalities who don't know the county very well and only know its history, that's where the education part is going to be so important. And the working with the people is going to be so important. People are sometimes hard to get at because they don't trust from the very beginning. So that's going to be a challenge.
I appreciate that. So on this planning process for this 10-year update of the municipal waste management plan, we have given a presentation to the COG, and I know that Jim from the authority has given a presentation at the COG. Not everybody's involved in the COG, and I'm not sure. I think is the COG as staff rather than elected officials. Do you guys know that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so there's the need to kind of engage at the elected official level as well, because ultimately this 10-year plan will be coming to all of the municipalities and they're all supposed to adopt it. And there may be things there that we would like them to do. You know, when in 1987, I was looking back at the agreements. I guess that was one of the original plans. They all committed to participate in the solid waste disposal process to do more efficient disposal. Well, I would love to be able to say to them in this planning process, potentially, if this is a value that we've been talking about in this group, but if it's a countywide value, hey, what do you think about joining into a countywide process or authority-led process to contribute to the diversion, composting, waste reduction, repair fairs, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I think that's how do we engage to make sure that they are feeling a part of this process, and thinking particularly all residents, of course, and businesses, but particularly the elected officials in the city and the municipal staff. Guys have ideas?
Hi, Ruth. This is Becca Yurkovich.
Hey, Becca.
I see a lot of the comments in the chat have some questions about the COG, which I would like to address. It might help with some of the discussion. So for those who don't know, the COG is a consortium of governments, and pretty much it's an open group to staff members or elected officials of any of the 49 municipalities. We typically meet once a month to talk about things that are going on in our municipalities that are common issues. So this would be the forum where those talks about costs of trash and different grants and opportunities is a great place for those kinds of things to come up. It also is typically met with a presentation from a neutral group or something that serves to educate us. So for example, Ruth offered a presentation just talking about this process. I see Ed has a question about Ridley Township. I do believe the township manager participates. However, I don't recall. I will say I represent Bethel Township in this group, but I can't speak to all the municipalities. So I hope that clears some things up.
And oh, go ahead. Somebody have a question?
So it is Chester involved, and I just wonder how it got started and who who threw the ball and how did they make sure people knew about it? And again, with the history of the county the way it is, the way it has been, that could be a real problem that, you know, only some insiders know about this. And so will it in fact be a good way of including people if those who didn't know about it don't know why they didn't know about it? So, you know, people do get touchy. You talked about you used a word, I don't remember it anymore, but yeah, our municipalities are very jealous of the little tiny power they have. And I know Chester often feels very, very, with good reason in many ways, but they're very, very out of it. And yeah.
Great.
To your
Well,
point, Joan, I will say that, sorry, Bruce, the
Yeah, no,
COG
please go ahead.
isn't run by the county. It's actually something that the municipalities came together. I'm not sure how long ago, but they kind of recognized that there was a need for people to meet. I will say the membership or the participation of municipalities really does vary. There's an active committee of the COG. I forget, I apologize. We haven't met in person in quite a long time. So with the specific questions of our participants, I'm not the best person to answer that, just because I don't serve in leadership on the COG. But membership does vary. Simply when a lot of the leadership within municipalities changes, the level of involvement also changes. So when we see that the township manager in a specific municipality changes, I'm not sure that it's always communicated from the switching of hands that, hey, you should probably go to this. But I will say within the COG, there is an effort to reach out to new managers and to those municipalities who we're not seeing regularly to ensure that we are hitting everybody in terms of participation.
But there may be an opportunity to grow and promote that organization since it is organized. So great. Well, thank you for sharing that, Beck. I really appreciate it. What else do we want to talk about? So we're going to do more outreach to the municipalities, maybe doing more outreach through the COG and others who are not active in the COG. If there are other ways that you think we should reach out to make sure that we're incorporating the desires of the municipal managers and elected officials to reflect their needs as well as the overall community needs. You guys have suggestions about that? Well, we'll just see how that goes along. We have a few more minutes for kind of open discussion. And I just had a couple of slides for last ideas to get you prepared for our next meeting. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to share? Nope. Okay. Well, I will be collecting up all of the comments that are in the chat. We had some very good discussion about how to better organize our kind of wish list of items. And it may just mean that those categories are the guiding principles and all of these little subcategories are just ideas that inform it. So we'll thank Sari for coming up with that, and David for your contribution as well. Let me just share the last few little slides for the evening. And then we'll talk about next steps. So here is the last slide, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, this one, which is the public outreach process. So thank you all for coming to this meeting. This was awesome discussion. If you didn't get a chance to engage, we do want to communicate with you. Please be in touch. I will put my contact information in the chat, but we will be having our next public workshop on May 26th. And that's where we'll be talking about in more detail some of these zero waste strategies that we started to engage on. And in preparation for that meeting, we are preparing some draft ideas that we'll be discussing. So we have an advisory committee. That's our official advisory committee under the state law. But everyone is open to participate in those advisory committee meetings. They are open to the public. The next one is on May 5th. You can register or, get the Zoom link through the workshop website. They had made a shortened URL, delcopa.gov /workshop. You can get to our site there. And that next meeting of the advisory committee will be presenting to them some of the things that we've been working on. They'll give us some guidance, and then we'll bring that back for a more thorough discussion with the whole community on the 26th. You're welcome to both. And then based on that discussion, guiding principles, potential future strategies, we'll be shaping together these draft plan elements. And that'll take us a little bit of time, but we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes that are the basic requirements for the state requirements for the plan. These are our new ideas, newer initiatives, great opportunities that we've been talking about. And then we'll be coming back at the end of June with that. And then we may be ready to finalize that plan in the August timeframe and do a public hearing, or that may get delayed a month, kind of depends on the process with the state and whether they consider our plan to be substantive or not substantive. It'll be substantive to us, but it might not be substantive from the point of view of the state. And but our goal is to still kind of wind up in that late summer, early fall timeframe, and then kind of coalesce with the sustainability plan and have a big county council embracing of the plan in the fall. All right, so that's really all I had to share on slides. So now let me just see if there's any capping comments for the evening. And Ed, we'll send a consolidated list of principles to the participants. Yes, I will. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this advice from today, kind of categorize things. We'll send out a new version to circulate. Maybe we'll get some more input. Maybe we've done enough. We'll collaborate with the folks that had a parallel conversation at Upper Darby Library and see where we are. And then we'll send that out to everybody that registered for this, and then anybody who's on one of the committees, and then we'll also publish it on that workshop website.
This is Ed. Two things. First of all, Ed is both Ed and Margaret.
Okay.
And I'm wondering how much representation there is in this discussion from the township participants in the COG, and whether something could be done either to increase their participation or to have some kind of a separate thing just for them. Because if something could be done to encourage them to communicate with their citizens, then we could go and demand that we hear something.
Yeah. So we do officially on our advisory committee have a representation from a borough, of first class township, et cetera. The one missing link is that we do not have a representative from the city government in Chester, either from an environmental committee or a elected official. So that's a missing link. So anybody want to do a little recruitment for us to cough up somebody that the county council can nominate to be on that would be great. So we do have a missing link there in terms of what's required under state law. And then, but obviously those folks only represent 3 or 4 or 5 municipalities. And so we still do need a mechanism for engaging the rest of the municipalities.
Well,
So
what I think there were about 35 people on the call tonight, and there 49, is it 49 municipalities? And something needs to be done to
oops, I'm losing you a little bit, Ed and Margaret.
there are more municipalities than there were participants on the call. And is there something that could be done to engage the representatives from the municipalities?
We will work harder on that next time. So we did some engagement that came a little late because the public relations folks at the county were really busy on the sustainability conference and a lot of other things. So a lot of the municipal officials that we reached out said, well, we'll see you in May, you know, it's going to be too soon to talk to you this week. So I think that we may get more participation at our May meeting. And we will also work with the representatives from the municipalities that are on our advisory committee to see what we can do to do some more engagement. And we did want to go back also to the COG, and anybody who is not on the COG and still wants to meet with us, we would, we would do any kind of special meeting for municipal officials if appropriate. We did want these workshops to be open to everyone. Obviously 35 people don't represent the entire county. So, but it's been small but mighty group that has participated in supporting this effort. So I do appreciate it. And yeah, so let us know. Well, let me put I'm going to put my contact info in the chat, and then you can just tell me directly any ideas that you have for outreach or improvements. So let's see, 415.
Is there any way that the county could actually ask Chester? I don't think I would be heard well. I have been very active with the Covanta protest. So it's possible that the NAACP could, but I think it might also, I think this is serious. I really do. This is a city that has been kicked hard historically by the county. And although the county today isn't kicking hard, perhaps the Covanta situation has made it feel like it's been kicked hard by its citizens, and maybe also the county through the Covanta thing at the county council. So I just feel like it would be a good idea if Chester is to be involved for there to be some sort of more formal way. Chester's not on the COG list. Morton's not on the COG list. I think that's really interesting, and I could share more of that on email to you why I think that's interesting, but I think it's important.
Well, that's good feedback. Well, I would like to get your advice about soliciting directly. And I think it's a great idea. We'll talk to the county staff about reaching out directly to Chester government folks and see if they can recruit. We were unsuccessful. There were some conversations with several of the members that declined to participate. But I wasn't personally involved in that, so I can't tell you that.
Well, that's good to know. That's actually really good to know. Maybe the NAACP should be the one to ask. Thank you. That's good to know.
Well, let's collaborate on that, because we want folks to feel welcome to give their feedback. We want to have an inclusive process. We're not as inclusive as we need to be yet, and we want to be. So whatever advice that you all can give us to do that, that would be great.
I also just wanted to add, so I also looked at the COG website that you guys shared in the chat, and that is not up to date. So I'm happy to bring that back to the head of COG to see if we can get that updated, because a lot of those members either aren't there anymore, or we do have representation from some other municipalities. Joan, I do know at our last in-person meeting, and again, I'm awful with names, so I apologize for you guys asking very specific questions. I know I did have a conversation with a representative from Chester Township. So I know that there are some other representatives that are in there now, but that list is definitely not updated.
A couple last licks. Somebody did just ask for the website link to get to the workshop registration. We're kind of using that advisory committee page as our working page. So we're going to put stuff there. Our minutes are going to be there. Our recordings are going to be there. We'll start populating that with other stuff. But that's the link to it. delcopa.gov/workshops. That's how you get to it. And then there was another question about most municipalities have websites where they could easily advertise the workshops, and that's true. So we'll do another effort to them. The county public relations staff did send a press release and a request and a flyer to every municipality, but it probably wasn't timely enough for them to kind of get it all together. So maybe sending out a specific additional request to them to say, go ahead and post this information for us, because eventually we're going to come back to you and ask you to adopt this plan. So we do need, we do need to somehow round people up. So, okay. Well, we're going to work with both Chester Township and Chester City, Joan, so we'll help with that. So thank you, everybody, for your help tonight. It's a work in progress. We'll see you at the next advisory committee. You're all welcome. And of course, May 26th, please mark your calendars for our next public workshop. We'll just keep going until we're finished. And so much appreciate your spending the evening with us. Okay, good night, everybody.